Hello. Welcome to another episode of The Family Business, where I am thrilled to introduce the Careys, Dave, Kim, and Elise. This is where we discuss how family intertwines with your career. Welcome to the show, guys. I'm glad you're here.
Great to see you, Matt.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's great. Dave and I go back such a long way that I'm shocked that we haven't done this already. So that's my fault for not asking you earlier.
Not at all. I think it's 20 plus years. I think you guys, it was either you or Joe placed me at Medtronic. So
yeah, it's amazing how, when you're not paying attention, how fast a career happens. And so the good part is you make some friends along the way. So Elise, can I start with you? Can you be first?
Yes.
You ready for this? This is a very hard question. Where does your daddy go every day? What does he do at work?
He normally helps with stuff.
He does stuff?
How about, do I help doctors?
Yes.
What do I do?
You help doctors with a bunch of
Does he make them birthday cakes?
No, that would be against the advertising, probably.
Not really.
No, not really. Well, what do you think he does? Does he go to the hospital?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that he helps people feel better?
Yes.
Yeah. He's a pretty good guy, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. So I understand you're going to be a witch for Halloween. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Do you have a black hat?
Yeah.
Not yet, but yes, coming.
Are you going to have a black cat as well?
No.
No.
Well, I could probably have a black dog. I have one.
Oh, yeah.
Stuffed
Black
animal.
dog. Black dog.
Yeah. And so what about your mom? Does your mom exercise a lot?
Yeah, she does running races.
Yeah. Is she faster than you?
Probably not.
Ah.
Oh, wow. All right. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, so here's the deal. You have to share all your candy with me when you go for Halloween. So when I come up and visit, I expect you to have a bucket of candy waiting.
No.
Oh, come on.
Mr. Matt's coming up soon for a conference, so we're already talking about it.
No.
I told him half a pillowcase is coming down with me.
My favorite is a Kit Kat. If you got any Kit Kats, that's the one.
Ooh.
Oh, you might have to fight for those.
I'm a professional fighter. All right. Elise, it is great seeing you and speaking to you. Do you have anything else you want to say about your parents, how awesome they are?
No.
No, you're done?
You're free to go use your iPad.
All right, you go cause some trouble.
Come on.
Yes. Atta girl.
All right.
All right, so let's catch up a bit.
Well, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for Pristine Surgical. We are a small startup based in the Boston ecosystem, north of the border up in New Hampshire. We are a startup that's focused on endoscopy, specifically single-use endoscopy. So we are launching products in arthroscopy, laparoscopy, whereas your Ambus of the world are doing flexible and doing Boston Sci doing a great job with that. We're going in an adjacent space and ultimately getting into flexible ourselves. But we're a small group of people, wonderful folks that are dedicated to bringing out a product here in early 2023 to start by simplifying arthroscopy with a single-use option. So we're very excited about it. It's a good product. Yeah,
the company's terrific, run by some great folks. If my memory's any good, I mean, I remember when we first started speaking and you were still very early, in your career and certainly before family. Mm-hmm. And some of the decisions you made were probably just you. And I'm curious, when did it start where you had to start thinking about other people besides yourself?
It's interesting because a lot of the roles I picked in my younger days were about lifestyle and where it was and new adventures and new companies and really in fields that interested me personally. And I was doing a lot of triathlons at the time. So being out in the West Coast and going up and down the coast, doing triathlons, I had a lot of fun. I was a rep and, sales leader, but it was early on in the career. It was right after that we were married. I mean, we still moved around a lot because we didn't have kids right away. And so even then, it was about adventures together. This is our 11th house that we've lived in.
Is that right?
We've been married 22 years in a row, 22 years.
Mhm.
Yep. This is our 11th house. So we've had a lot of moves. We've been in New Hampshire now for about 7 and love it up here. So now the kids are in school, so we'll stay here. But the decisions, they didn't change early because it was still just us and we were all about the adventure. Now with kids and wanting to keep things stable, I think we're both fortunate enough to go all the way up through school from K to 12 in the same town, and we want that for our kids. And I'm grateful. We're in New Hampshire, but it's within 50 miles of Boston, so we're in that Boston ecosystem. And there's a lot of wonderful people between Massmedic and some of the other company groups, where it's just a really cool ecosystem of healthcare people in this market. So I think we're going to be able to make it stick.
Yeah, I drove through there not too long ago. I did a college tour for my daughter, and in addition to driving through a bunch of New England and that whole area of the Green and White Mountains and everything, whether it's Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, or Vermont. I mean, you really can't go wrong. Although I didn't get up to Maine, which was disappointing. I didn't really get to see it, but I'll be back. That's for sure.
Next time.
Yeah,
Next
yeah.
time.
So I realize you guys have triathlons in common. Is that how you all met?
It's not how we met. It was something that brought us closer together.
So there's just a coincidence that you both ran
started.
triathlons?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was interesting. The first race we did was like a relay race. It was and we won it.
but that was our first date.
It was our first date. We won a race. So that's a good sign.
Wait. So all right, let's walk through this. So you were introduced to each other, or you met each other somehow, and you said, "Hey, do you want to run a tri with me?"
It was a road race.
This was just a running race. Yep.
Yeah. This was quite a few pounds ago for me. Kim's still in great shape, but not so much for me. But it was a good first date. It was a good sign.
That's how. Yeah, that's kind of how it
So,
started.
so did you discuss your competitive natures? Because sometimes one half is laid back, they're here to have a good time. One is I'm winning or I'm going to kick you off a cliff. Like what, did you have that conversation? Because you didn't know each other.
No. It's funny. I don't consider myself competitive. So I'm competitive against myself.
Right.
So I've never think of things as in a competitive light anyways, but
yeah, I competed all the way coming up through high school and college. So for me, but it was for us, just starting dating. It was actually something it's pretty cool to have that in common and be able to go do things like that together, go do, triathlons, road races, even the Spartan races and things like that. It was a lot of fun when, before kids came along. We're starting to get them into it now. They're of the age where they can get into it, but it was a really cool thing to have in common.
Yeah, I love the Spartan races. I've done a few, and but I'm getting I'm getting older. I fell off of one, and I'm like, you know what? You get to a certain age where falling isn't funny anymore. When you're 25, 35, you're like, yeah, this is really funny. Everyone takes video and everyone laughs. When you get to be my age, all of a sudden everyone goes, ooh, and everyone says, "Are you okay, mister?" I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Just don't touch me.
There might be a hip on the line there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I've taken some serious spills, and I just laugh at it now because I'm okay. But at the time, it wasn't that funny. So when you bounce back and forth, you went from, if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, you went from the Bay to Western New York, and you were there for a while.
Yeah.
And so, Kim, you were in school in Buffalo, if I remember right?
Yep.
So what was that like? I mean, Buffalo is, not everyone's first choice of destination, although I'm from Cleveland, so I can poke a little fun. But what was that like going there and then trying to make the most of your situation there and turning that into a place where you can build a family and a career, in addition to obviously Kim finishing school?
You can run with that one.
I think there's a lot of things. I mean, for one, I was very focused on school at the time, so I wasn't focused on much outside of there. But we both grew up in upstate New York, so we had family.
That's right.
We had family, Rochester's super close, so we would just visit family a lot. So we had that connection going in there.
Was that why you chose the school, or it just was a coincidence?
They kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah.
It definitely helped the decision. I don't think it would have been a decision we would have made if the family wasn't so close, but it definitely helped that there was an opportunity at the school and family was close by.
So,
Yeah. I'm fortunate enough too, Matt, that I just finished the Endeavor launch with Medtronic at the time, our first $1 billion product. So after that, I actually transitioned, because Medtronic being such a big company, I had a couple of different opportunities that came across that were more geographically flexible. So I was able to stay with the company, and Kim was able to do her thing. And so it was a really great experience for us.
Yeah, it's just interesting because if I remember the way the cadence of your career goes, you started up your own distributorship, and I think it was while you were living there.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear about that from a family standpoint, to stop and sit down and say, okay, look, I'm going to kind of take a left turn here, and I don't know how it's going to affect my lifestyle, my hours, my income, and all of that. So how did that conversation go between the two of you, and what was the deciding factor? You said, all right, let's just go for it.
I think we've been really fortunate. So I started in this business at 21 years old. I graduated on a Saturday, and I was standing terrified in an operating room on a Monday.
Wow.
And so this is all I've ever known to do. And so in doing that and saving your pennies, I think it does buy you some flexibility to go take some shots. And so I wasn't completely naive to the situation, in that, I had deployed these sales channels myself as a sales leader. So to have a good idea of what it takes to be successful, and all of that, the professional part didn't scare me as much. But like anything, to walk off from a role with benefits and everything else, and just say, I'm putting this stake in the ground. Sure, it was stressful. There was risks involved. We knew it, but we were also, we were very fortunate in that we had worked very hard. We weren't paycheck to paycheck anymore. We wanted to take a chance, and it paid off. I mean, despite my best efforts, it grew, and it grew fast. And we were really lucky to, find some good people to surround ourselves with, from helping some people break into the business, and then the family just all circled around us and embraced us, and we had a wonderful time with it.
Is that the way it happened, Kim, or is that his recollection?
No, that's pretty much. I mean, we looked at it. I mean, just kind of like we always have looked at anytime we have one of those choices, like, are we going to do something or not? We just kind of sit and talk about it. And I think I don't think it was that hard of I mean, it was a decision to make for sure, but we both went in with pretty high expectations, and it was good.
Was Cooper born then yet, or he wasn't in the picture yet?
He was a baby.
Yeah. He wasn't one yet when we moved back to New York that time.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. No pressure. The new baby, new job, new town. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
I slept plenty, like a baby. Yeah. So what is the transition from there? Because I remember you building it up and having a real nice run with it, and then deciding, okay, what do I do with this? Because you get really emotionally attached to these things that you develop. They become your baby, in essence. Yes. And then you have to make a decision on what you want to do, because it kind of runs its course. I always say it's like a party. It's a great party. Everyone's having a great time. Then around midnight, you're like, okay, some of my friends have left, and it might be time for me to get out, or I'm going to have to help clean up. And so when did you hit that transition point with that, where you're like, all right, this run is kind of coming to an end?
It's interesting, because we had my little distributorship. We called it Saranac Surgical, over a lake in upstate New York in the Adirondacks, where we like to hang around. The funniest thing about it was hearing people refer to the company, because when I worked for Medtronic, that was one thing people said, Medtronic, and I took great pride in the place. But in a name that I completely chose at random and named a company after, there's some pride with that. And so hanging that up wasn't an easy decision. I had the good fortune of taking some business from a couple of competitors, and ultimately one of them just decided that it would be better to team up. And so, it was, I felt that I still respect the people who do the job. It's not an easy job being an independent distributor. It's maintaining lines, and you go from having one boss to having 5 or 6, depending on how many companies you partner with. But ultimately, there was just a great opportunity to join Stryker, and it made all the right sense. And I think one of the things that I really missed from being my own little company, that I really loved at Medtronic and didn't know it at the time, was leading leaders and helping new leaders kind of get their footing. And that was not something that I realized that I was probably going to be able to do. And additionally, there's a lot of other things that aren't customer facing involved in running your own company. And so after getting, having a couple of bouts with lawyers and accountants and audits, I just knew that I wanted to be back out there in the fray and in the arena with customers, really trying to affect some change. And that I was going to continue to be challenged to do that if I was going to be a distributor.
Yeah, I mean, extricating yourself from that, it's not easy. It's like, being stuck in syrup sometimes, and and they was that old Godfather line where you thought you were out and they keep pulling you back in, and you think it's done and it's not. And you're like, my goodness, just stop calling me. It's
Right.
it. I'm done. It just doesn't exist anymore. So on the other side of the fence, Kim, I don't know that much about you. From what I'm gathering, you're a registered dietitian.
Yep.
Yep. And so are you doing that currently?
Not really. I've had a couple clients here and there, but between it, once the school bus comes, I'm mom chauffeur
Yeah.
and chef and all that, literally every day of the week after school. So if I can squeeze something in every once in a while during the school day, I'll do that. But yeah.
All right, so let me pull on a string on that, because I've always wondered this, and you're the perfect person to ask. When you're a very health conscious individual and you have young kids and a guy who doesn't seem to care what he eats, and so
Thanks a lot.
So how do you reconcile that? Because they're kids, and he travels and he does things, and he can't live on celery sticks your whole life. And so I'm just curious how you come to terms with that. Are you one of those moms who dresses up like the carrot sticks with the cherry tomatoes on top and make like little characters, or do you just let them have French fries once in a while?
Oh, we all have French fries once in a while.
Girl.
We are big French fry people, but it's it's once in a while.
Yeah.
And the kids have their vegetables that they like, and I'm going to make sure we have those vegetables around, and then try to offer up other things so they can try other things. And I probably push a little bit more than everybody would be happy with, but I should try to have stuff available, and they're gonna eat it or not. Hopefully eventually they're gonna like the stuff. They try it often enough.
Well,
Kim's built some really good habits for us, though. I mean, green kale shakes aside, I think about some of the foods that my kids are eating that I didn't even really get introduced to until I was, out doing corporate dinners and the like. So I think, for the kids to talk about healthy fish and sushi and the things they eat, they're way ahead of where their dad ever was, thanks to Kim. So
we were telling a story that I used to live on Pop-Tarts and drinking water out of a hose when I was growing up. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah.
I remember the kids would line up and we'd play football, and there'd be a hose, and everyone would just take it to drinking out of it. You didn't know where that water was coming from. It could have been from anywhere, and you didn't ask questions at 12. You're like, just give me the hose. So what about with exercise, Kim? I mean, you obviously are in incredible shape. Do the kids gravitate towards exercise because of you, or is that one of those things where you're just hoping they watch you and emulate you, and you kind of lead by example?
I think more the latter. We try to encourage them to pick things to be active, but you can only push so much, and you want them to want to do it. So trying to live by example, and sometimes they'll show interest and sometimes not. If I can push a triathlon, I will. but they're gonna do what they want to do. So hopefully they'll pick up from what we show them and want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
I think we've got a great opportunity for that this coming weekend. Kim's doing her first Ironman, full Ironman in
Wow.
California in about 8 days, but who's counting?
Are you
So I
nervous?
think the whole family's
Yes.
coming out. So.
Well,
Very.
well, what makes you the most nervous? Meaning, is any of the 3 events in particular, or the whole concept of it? Like, where do you have that moment where you feel like, my goodness, this is overwhelming?
Just, I've done a lot of the half distances, but
Okay.
just the idea of being out there for that long, I definitely have my stronger events, or event. I'm strongest in the biking. I'm
Right.
definitely worried about the swim and the run. But just the idea that it's an all day event
Yeah.
is pretty overwhelming.
And the swim is 2 miles?
2.4. Yep.
It's better you than me. Call me after. I'm just not interested. I run 5Ks a lot, and that's perfect for me. I'm 30 minutes, and I'm back in my car.
Yeah.
And it's easy. Usually from where I live, I run on the beach all the time because I'm in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and it's for a great cause. It's like everybody wins. It's not competitive. I don't care because I'm slow at this age. It's funny. I went from being a fairly fast young person to a really slow older person. Like, I see people run by me who look like they haven't run ever, or people who are 20 years older than me, or kids. And I'm like, it's like when you go skiing the first time and everyone zips by you who looks like they've never done anything athletic in their life.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. But I'm glad to hear that you're taking the plunge. I have a cousin who runs a ton of tries, and he just swears by him. Just absolutely swears by it.
I love it. I wanted to Dave did Ironman distance when we first met, so 20 whatever years ago, and it's been on my bucket list ever since.
Wow.
So I'm just hoping to survive this one and be done with it.
Yeah, I
But
doubt.
I love tries, but this one's a lot.
Yeah, nah.
Not even the event, it's the prep for it.
Yeah.
That really, the all day prep on the weekends and everything.
What do you eat beforehand? Like the day or two before? What's your diet?
It's extra challenging with me because I have some issues with that. But I'm gonna try to eat some, I'll have a lot of oatmeal and rice-based stuff, and hopefully stuff that doesn't turn my stomach. and hydrate as much as I can. I think it's gonna be warmer than what I'm used to training in too. So
is it Northern Cal or down south?
Sacramento.
Okay, awesome.
And the kids got all the cowbells ready to go.
Is that right?
So we're hearing a lot from mom.
Yeah, that's great. Well, there's a topic that we kind of have in common that you had mentioned in your note to me, so I hope it's okay to talk about it, is adoption. My niece and nephew are adopted, and they're the highlight of our family, although my kids, I'm sure, would disagree with that comment. But my brother adopted both his kids, and they are absolutely phenomenal. So if you don't mind, I'd love to talk about it and ask about that, especially how it relates to your career, like making these kinds of choices and saying, I already have a kid. I think he was 7 at the time when you adopted Elise. Yep. So you're like, all right, I kind of already got my family rolling here, and I've got my career going, and then this. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear from both of you about these decisions, and then Dave, career related for you, of like, okay, work-wise, how much more time do I need to be home, and how does this affect my travel, and all these kinds of things. So, either one you can start, but I'm curious because that is obviously an enormous decision. It's probably as great a choice you're going to make in your life, but there's still a ton goes into it.
You want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
we'd always had in our heads that we would be trying for 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
But we waited quite a while. We waited till I got done with school, a second round of school for me, to start having kids. And so, the regular route just wasn't in the cards for us. After that, it was kind of a matter of, making decisions around, it was right after a move that we made our decision, but we were like, okay, we've just moved. Now's the time.
Now or never.
Yeah. I mean, we're not spring chickens. So.
Yeah, I think I did the math, and I think when we're finally empty nesters, I think I'm 64, Matt.
Yeah.
So I've already tried to break it to Elise that she might need to look at high schools in Costa Rica because Dad might retire early. We were really fortunate. First of all, we're both taskmasters. So, the hardest thing about adoption for us, and I think for a lot of families, is just there's so many different routes. There's so many different things you can do. It's really hard to know where to even start. And so, interestingly, I was an employee of Stryker at the time, and I thought, why don't we just try to call the EAP line, see if they know anything, and see if they have anything they can share. As coincidence would have it, the person that I called, the person that picked up the phone, was an adoption counselor. And yeah, and so it was really amazing, serendipitous, all those things, and really helped us define the different options, what the puts and takes were for both, and then we just got on it, and from there it was no looking back. So it was actually the EAP line, which is interesting because usually, you think people that are calling that line have much bigger challenges than the one that we were facing, but they really were unbelievable. Sent resources, books, all of that, and really helped us make some really good informed choices. And by the time, because again, Kim more than me being the taskmaster, most times people say it takes a couple of years. It took us exactly 9 months to have a lease home, and so the same amount of time it takes to do it the old-fashioned way, we were able to make it all happen and welcome Elise to our home, which was really special.
Yeah, I still remember my brother calling me when his son was born. His son's now 22. And my brother is he's an attorney and he's just smooth. He does, he's very competitive and intense, but he has never panicked as long as I've known him.
Yeah.
He called me 3 separate times within 4 minutes. Get over here, click. Calls me back. I just adopted a son, click. Then calls me again, say, Are you leaving yet? I'm like, Dan, can you stop for just a second and tell me what the hell's going on? Because they didn't apparently, in his world, in his mind, and his wife at the time, they were concerned about being disappointed. And I don't know if you guys had some close calls or whatever, but they were concerned, so they didn't want to say anything, so no one really knew. So as close as we are, and we're only a year and a half apart, and my mom thought we shared a brain for a while, he didn't say anything to me. And so I never had him that unsettled and that nervous and that thrown. And he brought his son home, and it was my family changed in an instant. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So did you have any kind of crazy stories, or was it sounds like it went smooth?
No, it didn't go smoothly. So, but I think we were lucky. It's a combination of being lucky and trying to really, again, be prepared for everything. But it's emotional. I think on the first front, the way the social workers call it when a child might be available for adoption is they say, we have a situation. And each one of those, Matt, really is a situation, like something, it's an environment where raising a kid would be a problem. And so, you come to, I think, appreciate and feel grateful for what's gone right in your life, because you learn about situations where things aren't right. And so it's hard not to become attached and just want to solve all those problems. And I think also, being taskmasters that we are, we like to control our universe and make things happen. We're just two of those kinds of people. There are certain situations about adoption you have no control. And what's going to happen is going to happen no matter how hard you will it and what you do. But you just got to stay focused and know that it's worth it. In the end, it absolutely was for us with the lease. But we had times where we were on again, off again, on again, all within the same day. And so dealing with that is really hard.
And we had Cooper with us, who was 6 turning 7 at the time, who we were trying to bring through that with us while we were on the roller coaster. So that was,
They weren't all easy days.
So how did you explain it to him?
I think we set the expectation as much as you can with a 6 or 7-year-old that this might not work, even right up until the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right up until the end where, we weren't sure whether this was going to be a success or not. And Cooper's just a very chill kid, and he rolled with all of it because he rolls with everything. But it was, you just have to set that expectation that there's going to be things in your life, as much as you want to, that you can't possibly control. You just got to do the best you can. And I think in that way, Kim in particular set an example of how to handle yourself and be, I don't know how else to put it, except that you have to be positive. You have to keep working at it. You got to keep and keep hope. And it ultimately worked out great for us. And but we do feel that we are so lucky, and for everything that's come as a result of that.
Yeah. I have a saying. I coach a lot of youth sports, and I always tell my kids the same thing. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And just looking at her face for just a few minutes before she hopped off, like, that's one happy kid. So, you know, there's no doubt this is where she's supposed to go. And that's just amazing that your son rolls with it, because at that age, it's very confusing. What do you mean you're bringing home a baby? I don't get it. I just learned the whole stork Cabbage Patch thing, and now you're bringing, like, what happened here? And it must have been perplexing to him. So
I feel like I feel like we were also in a situation where it really would have been okay for Elise. You know, like, there was no dire situation. So it was like, things were going to be okay.
Okay.
If she didn't end up with us, you know, like, we really wanted her to end up with us, but it's not like she would have, if things went sideways, that it would have been really bad for her. And so I feel like that was kind of reassuring for me. And that helped me to kind of reassure Cooper, like, it's all going to be good. What's going to happen is going to happen. And, you know, we're going to get through it. Hopefully the way we want to, but yeah.
I mean, my experience was the fact how instantaneous the love is. It's at the blink of an eye. It's like they've always been a part of your family. And I don't know if it's because the process sometimes is protracted out, and maybe that's the case. But remember, in our case, nobody knew except my brother and his wife, and I think one or two other people. So my parents came, my parents, they're typical Jewish parents. They come flying in like a helicopter. My mom lands on the roof and comes flying in because there's a baby in the house, and the whole nonsense. My dad's already buying candy bars. I'm like, the kid can't have candy. My dad doesn't care. That's just my dad. Everything is something's related to food. So it is truly amazing to just have that feeling of add water and have family. And it's that simple once she hits the bed or hits her crib or whatever it is. So congratulations. I mean, there is no better story than hearing an adoption that ends well. You know, I just love the whole concept of it.
Yeah, congratulations to you too.
Yeah, it was great.
If people are intimidated by it, there's resources all over. You don't have to look that hard, and it's intimidating to start, but you just got to start.
Well, look,
take that step, and you'll work it. You'll work the problem. You'll figure it out.
Well, it's like everything else. If you want to find the negative, you can. If you want to find the positive, you can. It's up to you if you want to think of the resources, the financial implications, the time implications, the disappointment, all those things. Sure, they exist, but so does all the other wonderful stuff. And,
that's true.
And so you can roll through it. Well, that's great. So I wanted to catch up on one other piece. I understand that there was a little winemaking done in this house, and I don't know if you would want to call it wine, but I'm very curious because I am a novice wine lover. I've been to Napa. I've done a lot of tasting, let's say.
Right.
And I know what I like. I don't really know what's good, but I know what suits me. And so I have some knowledge here. But I'm curious, first of all, how'd you get started and what was the result? Let's walk through this process because I think there's a story here.
Oh boy. So we lived, at Medtronic, we lived up in Sonoma, and at another startup in Beauty, we lived in Marin. So we've been around wine country for a long time and absolutely love the area. But was it a COVID activity? Is that what started that whole thing?
It was you needing a hobby and saying, I'd like to make some wine sometime. And we're in the middle of COVID. So
why not?
Merry Christmas. Here you go. Winemaking set.
Yep. So I got my chemistry set, and through a mostly, I would say, clean and sterile environment, created a Chardonnay. But I think I had some travel or something happened where I missed the window to stop the fermentation process just by a few days. Turns out that's actually really important. I was not aware of that at the time, but I did make a wine with an accidentally high alcohol content. And so it was, how did our sister-in-law Allison put it? think she said it was fruit forward with a gasoline finish. Isn't that what she said?
Something to that effect.
And so we named it, because I'm Irish, we named it the Angry Irishman because it's a very angry wine, and gave it out as gifts to our enemies. But it was about 4% higher in alcohol content. You wouldn't think that you could notice that, but everybody really noticed it.
Yeah.
So it's a good party favor, though.
That's
The Angry
funny.
Irishman.
And so is that it? Is your career over?
Yeah, well, I still have another kit, and it's kind of like that thing that just kind of hangs around in the house that I know I've got to do something with. We'll see. Right now, the road time's been pretty substantial. I think Marriott just thanked me for 75 nights this year. So it's been hard to be around to do all the things. And I think I learned from the first experience that timing's actually a little more important than I thought it was.
I just have
So we'll get after it.
I have this vision of you in this Lucille Ball outfit stomping grapes in a big bucket.
Oh no, it was anything but that. You buy the juice and then you do the work, and the kids were involved. So as I said, it probably wasn't the most hygienic of wines ever made, but it got the job done. I think the high alcohol content probably took care of that anyway.
Sounds like it was flammable.
Yeah, it might have been. You're pretty good in your research on your social media, so that's good.
Listen, man.
That made the rounds.
Yeah. I find that when you have these conversations, you start to dig into, especially when you bring in your spouse or kids, and you find out what's really going on at that house, and because so much of it is only the keyhole I'm looking through, or I've done business conversations with you. We talked about kids a bunch, but I don't really know your life, and so this was a great opportunity to find out more about what you guys do when the Zoom calls end, and how things go in your family and your life and everything else. It's really amazing. For those of you who don't know Dave, he is an exceptional human being, as honorable and as ethical as you're going to find, and fantastic at what he does. And so it was great to see this other portion of your life, which I always wondered what it was, because I'm like, all right, whoever's married, this guy's probably a good human being, because there's no way he's not married to somebody like that. And meanwhile, you exceeded my expectations. So
definitely. As always, we marry up, man.
Yeah,
so,
tell me about it. I'm still chasing. Mine's so much smarter than me. It's not even fair.
I just always have appreciated, and every conversation I have with you, you always start with "How's your family?" And I know you mean it when you ask. And so you doing this show is exactly right in who you are to your bones. So I've appreciated you for the 20 years that we've had to work together.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, because what we talk about is so personal. It's your career, it's your compensation, it's your entire life of what you're doing every day outside of work, because it intertwines with making your career choices. So I know probably more about people than I should. And before I realized it, when I started thinking about doing something like this, I kept saying, what do I always talk about? And what you just said is exactly what hit me. I'm like, I ask everybody, every call, that's my first question. And I realized, well, why the heck don't I just talk about that? And that's how this whole thing came to be. Well, just want to say thanks to the Careys for being here. It was fantastic. This is the Family Business, where we discuss how family and careers are intertwined. Thanks so much for being on, guys. You were terrific.
Great to see you, buddy.
Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you.
You too.